And we're live. Welcome to I Drink and I Know Things, episode 22. Today we're going to talk about some of the news, a little bit of politics, and MC is going to complain about losing chapstick. I hope you enjoy the show. I'm joined so far by MC and Memes. We'll see if anybody else joins us later on. The New York Times, they're mildly anti-Semitic nowadays. What do you think, Memes? Does the Jewish half of you still read the New York Times, or does that half watch Fox News now?
I mean, what? I guess. Well, does the New York Times operate in the UK? Because I mean, they could be charged with hate memes now. I don't know what's going on. Because that thing the other day, I'm like, I heard Tim Pool's video about it. I looked at it. I'm like, all right, that's. I suppose you can say that's comedy and stuff. But yeah, when you got
that was comedy.
Well, I'm sure to somebody, I'm sure there were like some neo-Nazis or someone that found it very humorous. I mean, when you get Bibi Netanyahu as a Dachshund, I mean, I love Dachshunds and stuff, but when he's leading an old-looking senile President Trump with a yarmulke on his head, yeah, that's that's anti-Semitic, man. Yeah,
and a Jewish star collar.
Oh, wait, are Dachshunds Jewish?
I don't know, but pugs are Nazis. No.
Well, not all.
What makes this little cartoon here so anti-Semitic though? Is that supposed to represent the death of Judaism? Because that's a gravestone with the Jewish the Star of David on it.
Wait, is Bibi wielding a golf club there?
Yes.
Is that a golf club, or is that like one of those mirrors?
That's got to be anti-Semitic then, because like if I know anything from going down and visiting my dad in Florida, it's a lot of Jewish folks do enjoy playing golf.
Well, is that a golf club? Because that looks like one of those mirror things. Look up women's skirts. Just throw that out there.
Wait. Is it a golf club or a selfie stick?
MC, what is that?
To me, it looked like a golf club.
Maybe we should read the article and find out.
I mean, you can't really see what it is. Here's the question for it: Why are you running an anti-Israeli thing? What is Israel in the news for?
Their elections.
Their elections have been over for
like
going on 2 weeks now. So,
yeah. I don't see. I always just revert back to they hate us because they ain't us.
Well, yeah, and the second anti-Israel cartoon, in what? Okay, so the first one was Thursday. They retracted it Saturday, and then later on Sunday apologized. But they also printed a new cartoon on Saturday. Did they apologize for both on Sunday? I'm confused.
I have no idea, and it's why it's just if you're going to do something so blatant. And the thing is, it's like, all right, if you're going to go around and say, oh, look at all these terrible people doing all these terrible things, all these fascists, all these anti-Semites, and then you print this shit, it's like, come on, what are you doing?
Well, and then
we got our answer here. The second cartoon depicts Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu wearing a robe and holding up what looks like a tablet with a Star of David on it. It depicts Netanyahu as blind and holding a selfie stick, taking a photo of himself. Why? How is that even funny?
Anti-Semitic then.
MC, explain the humor to me, because I'm not getting it.
Okay, I'm not getting it either. I don't understand why what this whole thing is supposed to be depicting. What is it supposed to be indicating? He's holding up the tablets of, basically the tablets of, the Ten Commandment tablets. I assume that's what they're referring to, right? With the tablets, that part I got. robe. No idea what that's supposed to mean. All right, I don't see how that's supposed to be going on there. And I have no idea why you'd be holding a selfie stick with him with dark glasses on. It to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, and
second, I'll be right back.
okay, yeah, no, and ADL came out and called it insensitive, inappropriate, and offensive. It shows once again that the New York Times needs to educate its staff about anti-Semitism. We call on them to take immediate action. It's just poor taste, right, memes? I mean, that's about it.
Hold on. Maybe the New York Times has found out something, because I know they're doing that whole like online readership thing. What if they discovered like a large part of their demographic is actually like anti-Semites and or potentially like neo-Nazis or something? Like if all of a sudden they're getting the data and it's like, oh, who's subscribing to us for less than however many cents a day or whatever? It's like, oh, well, we got to throw something out there. I mean, is this really any different than like shit posters like posting like the whole like 1488 and Pepe memes and like the Nazi Pepe memes, pardon? Because I mean, realistically, I mean, what is this? They're just shit posting.
Yeah, no, and look at this. All right, so picture one, the Jew leads Winston Churchill, Nazi Germany, 1940. Picture number two, the Jew leads Donald Trump, New York Times, United States of America, 2019.
Wait, hold on, wait a second. MD, who owns the New York Times?
I honestly don't know.
Hold on. Well, isn't no. I thought somebody bought them. Hold on.
They did. It was a guy in Mexico.
What was it? The guy in Mexico, or who? Okay, so it's not Jeff Bezos.
No, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post.
Okay, my apologies. Another large old Jeep periodical that may not be doing so well.
or is it this other one that they're showing?
No. See, my mind went to, I'm like, all right, was that the one that was bought by Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos, who is the, I believe, current CEO of Amazon. Amazon, which also as one of the largest companies in the world for as far as the online marketplace goes, which also has the Amazon series. What's it called? The Man in the High Castle, about how if Hitler actually won. Like, I don't know. Does that mean that like Amazon is anti-Semitic?
Would it surprise you if they were?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know.
One of the problems with talking about anti-Semitism, quite frankly, is people conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism from time to time. All right. The problem, of course, with that is it's too easy to conflate the two. Right. You don't have to be a fan of Israel, right? But if you're not a fan of Israel, how do you depict Israel? Well, you could do it with just the Star of David. You could do it with just their flag, all right? Or you could just say that it's Israel, right? And then you don't have to do what kind of tropes. But if you're going to talk about people that are, trying to create a caricature, okay, well, how are you going to create a caricature? How do you do that, all right, without referencing the fact that Israel is considered the Jewish state, that it's a religious state?
Does this mean that Scott Adams can no longer go to the UK because some of his previous Dilbert things are obviously grossly offensive now?
Would it surprise you if they sit up there and banned him from going to the UK?
They talked about not having the president of the United States go.
Well, of course, because Orange Man bad. He said he was raping women. By now, I mean, he said he could just shoot somebody, he could get away with it. Okay, and
well, MC, the only issue is, as I think we actually had discussed before, is at this point, especially with the internet, you can make a claim and go after somebody for something. The only problem is, according to the mirror force principle, you open up yourself to the same criticism. So it's kind of like the whole people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. seems like with the internet now, we're living in like glass skyscrapers and people are hurling boulders via trebuchets.
Well, that's because for the longest time, people weren't throwing boulders. One side was always throwing rocks. And then when the other side started saying, okay, let's pick up a rock and throw it back, the other side said, okay, we'll pick up a bigger rock. That's why we're at boulders now. It's because for the longest time, people on one side of the aisle were just quote unquote taking the high road generally, almost completely. For the longest time. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing. That's why you have problems on the left. That's why you have problems with the mainstream media. Basically, is the mainstream media telling the leftists to calm down?
I heard, according to recently launched candidacy for Vice President Biden, that there were a bunch of very bad people and a bunch of very courageous people. But according to our current president, there were very fine people on both sides.
Yeah, you're talking about Charlottesville.
Yes.
All right, but the thing is that he was taking a shot at Trump, saying that there was, he didn't condemn them, just like he was reading the same thing that they always do. The one side always does this. The left has always done it. While Biden was a senator from Delaware, all right, people who were also Democratic senators from various states were basically accusing the Republican colleagues of trying to starve children to death.
Well, the whole bah humbug thing was a very terrible mimetic used.
It was because I don't disagree with you, all right, but that has nothing to do with starving children because it was a lie.
Well, I don't think there were Republicans out there that are like, hey, you know what would be really fun? We'll get the Democrats.
It wasn't even that.
Starve some children. I don't.
It wasn't even that. It goes further than that. They were saying they were trying to cut school lunch programs when that is not what they were doing. They weren't giving them a larger increase. That's all it was. They were cutting the increase. They weren't cutting the program, and they weren't even reducing the program.
Wait, so that whole mimetic arose because they wanted to cut the percentage of the increase to the budget.
Right.
Huh. Well, that was a very unfortunate thing to say.
Unfortunate. Well, no, that part. The thing about the bah humbug thing came about because they were, the whole closing the government, and this is not a good thing that Mad Dodge is no longer presenting us. Oh, that he's back. I'm sorry. I thought he dropped off. I was concerned.
No, not yet. He's been found.
I think I may have fixed my problem from this morning, so hopefully I won't have that problem tomorrow when I do my stream, because I got knocked off this morning. So
see, I figure you just hit the end stream button instead of the other one.
No, the Google was acting kind of flaky. I ended up rebuilding the Google Chrome.
Well, dude, the Googs has been like all over the place. Like Google and a lot of these other larger sites, they're redoing, I think, a lot of the back ends right now to try to increase efficiency. Because I think they're going to really make a major push with this whole like back end processing for video games and stuff. And I mean, if they could free up that much back room, I mean, it might be good for like people like me in kind of a cityish area, but people like MD are probably going to be screwed.
We're doing things to improve your service, and we made it worse. We're from the government, and we're here to help.
Well, MC, I may or may not account for all the internet technology and DOCSIS increases we've done over the years. And then again, when I listen on Fox News and I hear a congresswoman about a year or year and a half ago, and it sounds like she's repeating some talking points she saw from like just a committee briefing or something. And all I'm hearing are Node as well as Prism used within 2 to 3 sentences of each other. I'm like, oh, that might explain a lot.
Here's a story that'll piss you off, MC. Father guilty of violence for not using trans teens' preferred pronouns. Yeah, that's right. It's now child abuse to not call your confused teenager what they prefer to be called. If you named them Tom and now they think they're Sally, you must call them Sally, even though it's your kid and you fucking raised them as Tom.
How old's the kiddo?
It says teen.
So that's at least
Let
30.
me. 14-year-old girl claiming to be transgender.
I mean, is this something she's had
All right,
feelings for a while?
let's start being frank with something. I did a story, a news story a few days ago. All right, on the misdiagnosis, okay, of schizophrenia. Now, schizophrenia is one of those things that's been, identified within the psychological community, the psychological medical community for over 100 years now, right? And yet this study by Johns Hopkins found that over half of the time, these supposed doctors, these supposed medical people are misdiagnosing schizophrenia from not being able to determine whether it's schizophrenia or anxiety. All right.
Those are different things, I believe.
No, they are different things. They are considerably different. And if you're getting a misdiagnosis at 50% of the time, here's my question for you. Why should I believe that they're correctly identifying gender dysphoria?
Yeah, especially when certain cases of schizophrenia are also have visual and or audio hallucinations. I mean, you should be able to diagnose this. Is my point.
All right, there are supposedly hard, fast rules that determine whether or not someone is a schizophrenic versus someone who is or just going and suffering through anxiety. And yet the medical community, the psychological medical community, is unable to identify it 50% of the time.
Are there? I'm going to assume
this is like saying. I'm sorry, go ahead, Beans. I interrupted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, what I'm saying is if we've had so many cases that have been confused, my question is why is that happening? Is it possible that extreme anxiety with perhaps some other factors involved may lead to an initial view of it potentially being schizophrenia? And then if that is an initial view, I mean, that's something you'd go back and verify and check, because I mean, that seems like a very serious diagnosis.
Well, of course, it's a very serious diagnosis, but it calls into question the standards and the practices of the entire psychological community. And when you start trying to invent things, because let's be quite honest, how long's gender dysphoria been around?
I think it's been around for a while.
The term gender dysphoria has been around since when?
DSM-4, maybe 3, I think. So probably past 20 something years, maybe 30.
Right. So they can't successfully diagnose something that was easily identified 100 years ago. Why should I give any credibility to them saying we can correctly identify something that's only recent, that's only 20 years old or less?
Well, a lot of folks like to pretend that people that may happen to be like this didn't really exist. They like to just say, "Oh no,"
but it doesn't mean that they don't exist, and it also doesn't mean then that the solution, all right, that's being recommended by these people is the best solution for these people. Gender dysphoria is saying, I feel like I'm something else. Are you actually something else? No, I feel like I'm a woman when I'm a man, or I feel like I'm a man and I'm a woman. Are you really feeling that, or is this some other deep-seated psychosis, and you need medical help, real psychological help to get you over your delusion?
Well, the big thing is if a person.
No, the big thing now is let's be perfectly honest, memes. The big thing now is we're going to use this as a political wedge issue, and we're going to push it. They don't give a rat's ass if they're harming these people or not, to the point where they're trying to tell this to 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds.
Didn't what you're saying right there, MC, reminds me, I think, of one of the initial conversations that I actually had with an individual or so back on the Red Eye probably about a year or so ago that happened to have gender dysphoria. One individual served in the military, and I asked her, I'm like, well, if you could take a pill right now and get rid of your gender dysphoria, would you? And she said, yeah. I'd love to grow my big beard back and everything like that, but that's just not who she felt she was.
Okay.
And I mean, that seemed to be a case. And I believe what she had mentioned is something of a warning saying that, well, like straight, or no, pardon me, gay men were kind of utilized as, had been, basically she warned of a lot of trans folks kind of being, like you said, kind of used as like a political cudgel, if you will, which that ain't fucking right if that's the case. I mean, if somebody is actually trying to help somebody,
you be honest and see how this is going and how this is playing out in the political sphere.
Oh, there's absolutely politicization of it, and that's fucking
well, then
bullshit.
Don't use the term
that bothers me. Oh no, it does happen, but I will not accept the fact that for somebody to say, well, this is all political. No, there are folks out there. I actually had one of my good friends growing up, one of his brothers that treat me well actually happened to recently undergo and come out.
At this point in time, it's all political. And I have no problem saying that. And the reason I am saying that, all right, is that it's outside the realm, all right, of the medical community. A medical community that can't even sit up there and correctly identify, all right, schizophrenia from anxiety 50% of the time.
Well, yeah, and that makes me think, how many times are they misdiagnosing ADHD and giving kids,
of course,
pill form crystal meth? That's what it is. It is methamphetamine in pill form, and they're giving it to children. How many times are they misdiagnosing ADHD?
And now we end up with a story, right, where a father is accused of child abuse because he refuses to use the gender pronoun. And you're going to say this is not political memes? No, this is only political now.
You need to go back and see the whole story and everything.
I am talking about the whole story. What you come back bleeding about how a person feels, and there are people who are going, well, yeah, this person feels this way, and therefore it is their way. Because, how a person feels, that becomes their reality. And that kind of thinking has led to all sorts of nonsense.
All I'm saying is I try to put myself in another individual's perspective and think that if I truly felt this way, and this is something that's just been eating away at the end.
If you truly felt you were a dragon, okay, you can play this game of going down to it too doggone far, and we've gone past the point of reality. If you start acting like a dragon, where you get to the point of trying to feel, well, yeah, they're a dragon, we should just let them go. No, these people need help. Real help. They don't need excuses to continue necessarily going down that path. Now, when it comes to gender dysphoria, I'm not arguing that it can't exist, because it can. The question starts to come back with, one, what do you do about it? And two, are we really helping the individual? And I can say this without any reservation whatsoever. When you're talking to a child, when you're not talking an adult anymore, you're talking about a child, then you cannot tell me that child who doesn't even understand something as simple as consent now has to sit up there and can say at the same time, but I understand gender dysphoria.
Yeah, no, and first off, I just had the image of memes running around Walmart trying to bite people, pretending to fly.
Hey, that's been many years. It hasn't been since preschool, since I was there was a progress report or first report card saying memes has stopped growling at the other children and has begun to socialize.
yeah, but that aside,
you will bow before the dragon. That's how he's socializing. He's no longer growling at him. He's already terrified of enough. They are now his men.
Memes robs Walmart and fucking piles the money up, and I'm smart.
No, I didn't rob Walmart. I got pushed around in a shopping cart pretending I was a corpse.
But no,
Maybe that
memes.
was Stop and Shop.
All joking aside, let's say you're the father of this 14-year-old. Are you going to be okay with giving them well, it's a girl wanting to be a boy, 14. Are you okay with giving her testosterone at 14 years old?
You don't harm children. That's something that would be, I would imagine, a family decision that would be discussed thoroughly, that would be gone over. And just from the example of my buddy's former brother, I'll be straight up. It's kind of like if you meet some folks and just kind of growing up, it was just kind of when she ended up coming out, it wasn't the biggest surprise to me. So and again, I do believe it depends on the individual. And if an individual truly does have gender dysphoria, I think one of the big issues we're having is if folks are just jumping on the bandwagon just to be part of a community and just to feel like they're getting attention and stuff. And if they go through something and then that's not truly who they are, I mean, there is an alarmingly high suicide rate right now. And that's trouble.
The problem is when you don't have doctors who can even successfully identify it.
No. Here's a bigger problem. Here's a bigger problem, MC and memes. Okay. This father called his daughter her, and now he, got found guilty. And this is in British Columbia, mind you. So it is Canada. Yeah. But anyway, if he's not allowed to call his daughter, what makes you think he's allowed to not give her testosterone? Now his control over his family has been taken away by the Canadian government, right?
He has no parental rights. The government has assumed parental rights.
Yeah, and that is the bigger issue here, in my opinion. And Brian in the chat, Brian the Observer says, at Mad Dodge, Ritalin messed me up until I discovered coffee for my ADD. Yeah, man, Ritalin and Adderall and all this stuff is fucking bad. It really is. I was, a dumbass at one point in my life, and I fucked around with drugs a little bit. I've taken legal and illegal speed, and the legal stuff fucked me up way more than the illegal stuff. So, think about that one before you hand your kids some Ritalin. Anyway, I'll let you guys go ahead because I cut you off.
Next time, don't cut it with Drano.
I thought that was only with wine.
A little wood alcohol in there. You never know what those people in freaking Oregon are going to be actually doing. But no. But this is the problem, memes. This is my issue. We got these what for lack of a better term are called soft sciences, and the reason that they're called soft sciences is because there's really no quantitative methodology that you can apply. You can't apply certain standards that's going to work every single time. It's not 100% reproducible. If I do this, X happens. Okay. So you can't just observe it that way. That's why they were called the soft sciences, right? The problem is now, though, is these people are engaging not just in science, but in politics as a wedge issue. And let's be perfectly blunt here. Many of them are doing it as a reaction, all right, to other problems. You've got a guy right now who does lectures, and he goes around giving lectures and everything, where he said that he was pushed because of this diagnosis of gender dysphoria, all right, into becoming a woman. And then years later, what he really needed was psychiatric help to get over the freaking damage that was done to him when he was a young child and his grandmother was dressing him up in dresses.
Oh, so that's additional information, and that's something that happened probably at a very young age that
But
would affect somebody.
the problem is that he was pushed in the direction by the quote unquote medical community at the time. Rather than being able to diagnose him successfully, they pushed this on him. Now, if doctors are pushing their little, pet projects onto people and onto patients, what do you think is happening with children? The whole term, living vicariously through your child is a well-known trope and a well-known term that's been out there for a long time. And yes, there are parents that push their children in a certain direction. Well, what if the direction they're pushing them in is, well, I really wanted a girl, so I'm going to turn this person into a girl. And they're it's fueled by this attitude. There's no difference between men and women. They're exactly alike. Well, if they're exactly alike, then why shouldn't I want a girl, so I push my little Johnny to be a girl, or I wanted a boy, so I pushed little Mary to be a boy. And think of the psychological damage that's being justified, them saying, when the medical community says, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, that puts a whole new spin on Johnny Cash's song "Boy Named Sue," huh?
You don't harm children, and I mean, I thought medical doctors and stuff, they swear the Hippocratic Oath, so you do no harm. And I mean, if they're doing something and it does cause harm, they must not think it's doing harm. But MC, you do bring up a very good point about the quote unquote the soft sciences. Do they have to be soft? I understand that maybe we can't find something that'll work in every single case, but we do have the ability to take data and at least design some form of a model, right?
Well, what if as soon as you say model, that is people sitting up there going after a desired result?
Well, I mean, you're going to have a statistical distribution, and you're going to use other information and do the best you can.
You're dictating the result. That's the problem with anybody who tells you science comes down to modeling.
But isn't that quantum physics? Isn't that just statistical models because we don't quite know yet?
Probability plots. There's a difference between a probability plot, being able to predict from a probability, and it will be reproducible time and time and time again, right? Versus someone doing a modeling to say, if you do this, we'll get this result. Anytime they say that.
Can you educate me on the difference? Because
okay,
maybe
let me give an example of something. All right, if you create an algorithm, all right, that will predict how many photons, all right, will successfully get through a filter. Okay, it won't tell you which photon necessarily got through the filter, but it'll tell you what the numbers that successfully got through the filter versus the numbers that didn't successfully get through the filter. That right there is an algorithm, but it's not a model. It's not saying, what the result is going to be. Okay. A model is something like, okay, here's what's going to happen when two black holes collide. All right. You have this happen, and then you have this explosion, and you have this result. Okay. The reality is you don't know whether or not that's accurate or not because you haven't observed it. Okay,
right, so
what was a model like? Well, what happened at the instant of the Big Bang? We went all the way back, and we're saying this is what happened at the Big Bang. That's a model. Why? Because there's no observation there. You don't know whether or not that's actually what happened at the Big Bang or not. You don't even know if the Big Bang actually took place. It fits within our current understanding of the laws of physics, yes. And it could be a good tool to say, okay, can we predict things going forward? Possibly. But the reality is that we don't know. And when it's applied, for example, with climate scientists, we're saying, well, here's our climate model. Why is it that all these climate models break down 10 years into the future and don't seem to have a good track record? Well, we didn't have enough information. We didn't take certain things into account. Well, how do I know what you're taking into account now is accurate? You don't. So what they were doing is they were saying, okay, we've got something that predicts how we got here, and this is what we predicted will happen in the future. And when it doesn't happen, it means there's a problem with the model. It means that the model isn't science. It's soft science. It's pseudoscience.
Well, that's why I thought they had 3 primary models, and if you take I think it was R3 or whatever, the most extreme one, which if it is the case, it does seem to be very alarming. If you're looking at the other things, then it's like, okay, it's definitely an issue, and other than that, it's like, oh, all right, we see moderate.
Look at, for example, what they do for climate models for the tracks of hurricanes. We've been tracking hurricanes for going on 60, 70 years now, 70 years. All right. And that data keeps getting pumped into models to predict what the track of any hurricane will be. And you can look at that track and they come out, the closest they can get is a cone. All right. The further out they go.
Well, I mean, just because it might hit the Florida Keys or like North Carolina, I mean, that's
or
a very
not
broad model
at all and flow right on out without even making landfall.
Well, I mean, that has happened.
Yeah, it has happened.
Okay. Well, before you guys get sidetracked on hurricane prediction models, I got another story here. Japan's emperor to step down for the first time in 200 years. The emperor will advocate on Tuesday, putting his son on the throne and ushering in a new era for the world's oldest monarchy. Kind of interesting. The Japanese now get a 10-day holiday, which is I wonder what they're gonna do. Like, don't they work almost every fucking day? So like 10 days off in a row, they'll probably go crazy, huh?
I don't think the Japanese are very industrious people, yes, and they have a commitment to it. But to say that they're going to die if they have 10 days off is a bit excessive.
Oh, dude, maybe they'll crank out a new Godzilla movie. That'd be sweet.
There is a new Godzilla movie coming out, isn't there?
I know, but it's not. It's made by us.
Yeah, it doesn't look good either.
It's not the classic. It looks a little better than the first one where it's like, all right, Godzilla wrecks the Mutos, and then he takes a nap.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I like Godzilla to look like Godzilla, but they keep trying to bulk Godzilla up, right?
They're trying to make him appeal. They're trying to combine the traditional Godzilla with like the Hulk. They're going for like the Avengers crowd.
Yeah, exactly what they're trying to put on muscle mass and make him puffed up. Look, you can make Godzilla scarier. You can make him look more vicious and things like that. I don't have a problem. But when you just try to add mass to him,
wait a second. Is Godzilla suffering from toxic masculinity?
You guys really get sidetracked easily. I mentioned Japan, and it's immediately Godzilla and Mothra.
He laid eggs.
Yeah, well, okay, yes. Minya was produced by asexual Minya. Okay, yeah. So Emperor, yeah, go on.
All right. Well, no. This is interesting though. The Emperor stunned Japan when he announced in 2016 that he wanted to give up the throne, citing his age and health problems. He has been treated for prostate cancer and also had heart surgery. He's gonna die soon, right? And that's why he's giving up the throne to his son.
Well, I mean, he could be just wanting to, spend the rest of his life in kind of like leisure, right? And not have to worry about all the other pressures about being the the head of the Japanese.
How much power does the emperor have in Japan? After World War II, I thought we kind of neutered the emperor of Japan.
Well, the emperors of Japan haven't really wielded a whole lot of actual power. All right. I mean, they have in many ways they have a similar type of constitutional monarchy as Great Britain, but they have less authority over it. I do think that he, however, could call for, a re-election and so forth. But the military, I don't think anymore. I don't think the military swears allegiance to the emperor anymore. Those are the things that were basically gotten rid of after World War II.
I mean, it just it just sounds like a man that basically had a good life and everything, and wants to step down before things maybe get more complicated. And let's not forget that Pope Benedict stepped aside.
Well, I think Pope Benedict. I'm going to be real blunt here. I honestly think that Pope Benedict stepped aside because they were going to come for him sooner or later and put him in jail.
Well, this is interesting. There have been abdications in Japan's long imperial history, which has mythological origins and stretches back more than 2 millennia.
Yes.
Wow, that's really actually quite impressive.
Well, it's after the first millennia. Basically, like in the 1200s. In the 1200s, the emperors of Japan stopped being the head of the government, the temporal head. They became just spiritual figures. Okay, and in a sense, they became pawns for the warlords. Whoever controlled the emperor, it was a status thing more than anything else. Okay, the emperors themselves were not telling people what to do or so forth, and this is true all the way up until 1968, or excuse me, 1868 rather, when you have what's known as the Meiji Restoration, all right, where the emperor technically becomes the head both of the spiritual and the temporal power. He becomes the temporal power broker.
And that was towards the fall of the warrior class in Japan,
well,
right?
The end of the shogunate. It's the end of the shogunate period. Okay, and there's a variety of reasons. It's really an interesting period to study. But one of the problems, of course, is when you put the emperors back at that head, is the imperial court is used to being a pawn. They're not used to wielding true imperial power anymore. Okay, and they box themselves in from a mental perspective. For example, Hirohito was very upset, right, with the Manchurian incident, right, and it's his conversation that causes the downfall of the government at the time. The prime minister resigns in disgrace. He feels that he has misserved the emperor, etc. Right, and the whole government collapses. And Hirohito is shocked by this, which is why he never decides to go publicly against the will of the government ever again, because he feels it's his role to keep the people, to keep a peaceful environment for the people to live within. So, obviously the chaos created by a government that falls, he was trying to avoid anything like that. So even when, this is one of the reasons why you see the rise of the militarists, all right, in Japan, all right, because they can take advantage of that, because the emperor is not willing to actually wield this power because he's not used to wielding it. The whole court process, the imperial court is not used to what it meant to wield actual power, even though technically they have it. They don't wield it. It's the same thing that you're dealing with, to be honest, with Queen Elizabeth right now in Great Britain. She wields a lot of power if she wanted to use it. She could dissolve Parliament over this whole Brexit thing and say, bam, recall elections today. You guys are gone. She literally could do that. Will she? Well, she probably thinks it would cause too much chaos for her subjects, so she doesn't want to do it.
Let's just face it, MC. I mean, being emperor's got to be kind of a pain in the butt anyway. It's been a while since I was an emperor, but
yeah, those times were hard, huh? Memes.
Well, it was like 20-something years ago. And let's face it, I mean, I was the emperor of the Dragon Clan, and I mean, you got to fill positions, you got to do this, you got to lock things.
This whole illusion thing earlier on.
What? No, this happened. Actually, it was the first time I had built a website too.
And did you run around Walmart biting people? I'm the Emperor Dragon, bitches.
Oh, you eat food, not people, unless no, leave people alone.
Would you need him?
All right, because since 2019, more racism. Jaguars Ramsey implies Giants picked Jones because he's a whitey. God damn it, MC.
Yeah, this is the problem when you see racism anywhere and everywhere, right? and it's fueled by the left, and it's expounded on by the left. All right, where they take this kind of stuff and they see it as an excuse for anything and everything, and they blow the stuff out of proportion. All right, so if you have someone who feels somehow slighted, well, the reason you're slighted was if you're a person of color. It's because of racism. The other person must have been racist to do this. Okay, and it colors and it holds people, so many people, back all the time. Now, when I was in the military, I asked a guy one time. All right, during a conversation, there was a lot of us hanging around, and you ended up with, there was about 10 of us, right? 4 people were black, and the rest of us were white, or I think there was an Asian guy there as well. And I asked this guy a question. I said, do you believe that 99% of the bad things that have happened to you because of your race? And he didn't bat an eye or anything else. He turned right around and said, yes. Okay, if that's your viewpoint, then you're making an excuse for why you're never succeeding on anything and everything. If that's your viewpoint, it's not saying that racism doesn't exist. But if you believe every bad thing that's happened to you is happening to you because because of your race, all you've done is created excuses for yourself.
You know, yeah. And this might not be a popular opinion, but fuck it, right? If that's the way you think, then you're the one that's sabotaging yourself. You have put yourself in a box and made yourself helpless. And that's on you. That's not on me.
It can be that way, yes. And Joshua Janice, if everything is racism, nothing is racist.
Well, that's some postmodernist logic, I suppose. There, the thing is, can having certain views like that lead into a self-defeating, self-fulfilling prophecy? Yes, it absolutely can. However, at the same time, I have heard stories about folks that I believe they were of Indian heritage, like India, the country heritage and stuff. And they said like they were getting hated on when they were growing up. And again, like this was a while back, but I believe the person's brother ended up saying, well, at least we're not black. And even at that time, it's just, you combine that with the fact that there are plenty of mimetic imagery out there of folks marching around with tiki torches and stuff like that. And that hits upon extremely, extremely painful memories for a lot of folks.
Oh, a lot of folks have painful memory to that? Really?
Or at least painful memory. And then, no, there's still folks around that have lived through that shit, man.
Yeah. How many?
Oh, probably a smaller portion of the population, but a lot of people remember the stories and stuff. No, dude, MC, it's a thing. It's a thing. You got to acknowledge it's a thing, and you acknowledge that. Yeah, no, racism is a thing. Racism is bad.
Nobody's denying.
If you're going to use it as a potential.
Okay, the problem is this guy's basically saying that they picked this guy only because he's white. He's accusing the ownership. He's accusing. Now he's a player for these guys. And he's accusing the upper echelon of picking a guy, all right, in a draft over somebody else only because of the color of his skin.
That seems like a pretty bad reason to pick you for a draft pick.
Well, no, and do I need to be this dude? Fine, fuck it, I'll be this dude. Have you seen the demographics of the NFL right now? Who's racist here? Just asking.
But wait, hold on. Does this mean that potentially we're seeing this, a lot of the quote unquote culture war leaking into sports and shit now?
You've had it leaking into sports, and it's been driven that way. You have sports reporters that were saying they have to make a stand. Look how often they went after frickin' Tiger Woods to get him to say something political.
Wow, check this out. This is actual tweet. Okay. After the Giants made the selections of Jones with the 6th pick overall, Ramsey tweeted, I bet if Dwayne was ... never mind, Jaguars on the clock. Ooh, yeah, like, no, we're not implying that he said it was over race. He fucking said it was over race.
Well, I mean that would be the NFL is an employer, so if this is potentially discriminatory, they'll have to look at it. And I thought a lot of companies and stuff, if you're bringing a major serious allegation, you're gonna
what do you do to get your reputation back when the press spreads this kind of crap? What do you do when the accusation is false? Right now, for example, with Trump, so, there is nobody that can show me anything that Trump did that's considered racist. Yet, if you talk to people, how does Trump get back his reputation of saying that he's not a racist?
To do things that aren't viewed as racist?
What does he do? He hasn't done anything that's viewed as racist. Why? What good did that do him?
The Charlottesville thing wasn't the great, and I get it. He did say, "I'm not talking about like the Nazis."
Charlottesville. Fuck off with Charlottesville. I don't give a fuck. How about you not remove the goddamn Confederate monuments, and you won't have a goddamn protest now, will you?
Well, that's the thing. If that's had to been all it was, it's just it turned into more than that, man.
It turned into more of that because people sit up there and blew it out of proportion, and furthermore lied about what actually happened, just like they lied about what the president actually said. They took him out of context intentionally so that they could claim he was a racist when he didn't do anything racist, did he? So how is he going to sit up there and fight against this when you have people that see racism anywhere and everywhere, and they use it as an excuse?
The comparison of President Obama, as calm, cool, as collected as he may be, versus an archetype of President Trump when he comes out and says,
Trayvon Martin could be my son, all right? And yet no one called him out for his racism. We're going to have to go investigate what happened in Ferguson while he helped them spread the lie of what actually happened.
Well, I do think the president was concerned and didn't want a race war to break out or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I was looking at it differently.
Hands up, don't shoot. Remember all that?
And we found out additional information.
With Gray, we need to have justice done for Gray in Baltimore. And how did that turn out?
What? Was he the guy that died during that rough ride or whatever they said it was?
Yeah, where nobody else in the vehicle was harmed?
Because I don't think he had the proper restraints or seat buckle or
nobody else in the vehicle was harmed in any way, shape, or form, had any bruise, and this was an individual who was known, all right, to bash himself into the wall so he could claim police brutality.
Well, how would he be able to do that if he was under proper like buckles and restraints?
You don't have the quote unquote proper restraints in paddy wagons. They don't expect people to try and ram themselves into the other sides of the paddy wagon to falsely accuse the cops.
Did they had evidence of this?
They've had evidence that he'd done it previously. Okay. They had him on camera doing it, where he was shown on camera where he was making the false claim, and then they showed him on camera, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, I retract it."
Were any of those officers convicted?
No.
I'm looking at the chat memes. Falcon says you have brain damage. Joshua says they had libertarians at the Unite the Right rally. That's the one thing that people don't understand. Yeah, no, and they also, especially Charlottesville, they had the Sons of Confederate Veterans there protesting the removal of the monument. It wasn't just a bunch of crazy fucking Richard Spencer, motherfuckers there. Like, it's a bigger issue than just a bunch of Klan members. All right.
Oh, no. I mean, it's a piece of history, man. And if folks want to remove the statue, I mean, that's up to the folks that actually live there. If they want to remove it, they can vote on it. If they don't want to remove it, they don't have to.
We're marching there, though. How many of them were actually from that area versus the people that were bussed in?
Well, that's one of the major issues, because a lot of times when you have trouble at these different events and stuff, it's usually from folks that are out of town.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, so next story. United States sails warships through Taiwan Strait, warns China against hostile flotillas. Is the United States military and Donald Trump just ramping up a little bit of pressure on China just to show them, hey, you're not going to build these fucking islands in the South China Sea and take territory that doesn't belong to you.
It's a sense of support for Taiwan. Okay.
Well, and let's not forget, isn't the government of Taiwan really the actual Chinese government that fled during the communist takeover?
It's the offshoot of Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek, though, never controlled all of China. He claimed to be the warlord of China. You got to remember, China had fractured into warlords all over the place. And Chiang Kai-shek became the #1 warlord, meaning he was more powerful than everyone else during the Japanese invasion. Okay, but the reality and we were supporting Chiang Kai-shek rather than Mao the communist. That part is accurate. Okay, but as far as saying that he was in control of China, I don't think you could ever really come back and say that he was quote unquote the leader of China, because there wasn't really a single unified leader of China during that time frame. And the closest you get, of course, is right afterwards, when you have the rise of Mao, and Mao basically takes over and consolidates power across the entire area landmass of what is now China. All right, the Chiang Kai-shek's forces fled. All right, and they settled on Formosa. Now, Formosa for a long time was basically occupied by the Japanese. Right after the World War II, of course, they're forced out of some of these areas. They're forced out of Korea. They're forced out of Formosa, right, the island of Formosa. And Chiang Kai-shek then sets his government in exile, as he says it, right, in Taiwan. All right, we for the longest time, and when I say we, I'm talking about the British, the French, and the United States, only recognized China as the government of China being the government from Taiwan. We did not recognize the communist Chinese. That changed under Nixon. Nixon said, no, the government of China is the one that has most of the Chinese people, and whether we like it or not, it's the Chinese government, or the communist government in China. Okay, so that was a major political shift when we did that. Okay. Now, why was that a major political shift? Because in the UN, China was considered one of the permanent members of the Security Council. So what you effectively did is you went from a Taiwanese being a member of the Security Council to now communist China being the permanent member of the Security Council, where they can veto any anything really going on there. They have permanent veto power.
Which I never understood that. I know the United States and Russia also have permanent veto powers, but what's the point then? If the United States, Russia, or China, any of the big nations could just say, yeah, fuck off with that shit, then what's the point? The United Nations is pointless at that.
Well, it can get it does make consensus more difficult. That's true. I mean, for the longest time, it was basically a 4-on-1 where the person vetoing everything were the Russians, the Soviets. Veto, 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 veto. Okay. With China, at least, it became like 2-on-3. Where you have France basically, somewhere in the middle, and Great Britain somewhere in the middle. Which is why it's becoming the other way going on a lot, where it was 4-on-1, where the United States was the one.
To be more specific to the story, though, is this the United States military flexing its muscle at China? And as you said, showing support to Taiwan at the same time?
Yeah, but we've always done this. This is nothing new. This is typical. Right, so.
It seems like the pressure has been ramping up, though, in recent years. Either that or I'm paying more attention to it.
I think people are paying more attention to it with regards to, of course, the islands, all right, that are being built up and so forth. And people are seeing China now as it begins to industrialize, as it begins to become, all right, a major player. All right, from an economic standpoint, they're paying more attention to it. But the reality is I wouldn't say that we're ramping this up any further, or any more, any less than we were in the past.
All right, so there's two stories here, but they're connected, so I'm not going to click on it. I am screen sharing, but more arrests in Sri Lanka as terrorists commit suicide with explosives. That's one. And then right under that, Sri Lankan president knew of Easter Jihad plot 10 days beforehand. 10 days? What the fuck?
Well, you know that there's a possible problem. That doesn't mean that there's indications that something's going to happen. That doesn't mean you know what's going to happen.
Well, that's like saying that George W. Bush had in one of his briefings at one point something about Al Qaeda wants to attack the country with planes. It's like, oh, okay, just because you have that snippet of information, as well as many other threats against the nation, it doesn't necessarily say that there's a 99.8% chance of this happening. So it's
these are the guys that are doing it. This is the day that it's going to happen, etc. I mean, be on the lookout for this guy. All right. It doesn't tell you. I mean, yeah, he may have known about that there's a plot afoot. But then again, I can tell you right now that they probably get that every freaking day, that there's a possible plot with this, there's a possible plot with that.
Is it because we almost have too much information, or I don't know?
Well, there's a part of it's that. I mean, there is an information flood, all right, and picking out the gems to being able to take some of these tendrils to really decide, okay, what is really the problem here can be difficult. But if you can't identify the players and you can't identify where they're at, how are you going to stop it? If you don't know who it is that's going to be carrying the bombs, if you don't know where the bombs are, right? How can you stop it?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We were talking about Catholicism just the other day, and about how they kind of the Pope is weak. But this is interesting. War footing. Catholic Church in Sri Lanka calls for crackdown on Islamic extremists. So it looks like the Roman Catholic Church, at least in Sri Lanka, actually has some balls still.
Well, I'm sure he'll get admonished by the Pope.
Yeah, how dare you defend yourselves, right?
Right. You're failing to send me enough children.
Oh, ouch. Okay. Okay, so Sri Lanka shuts down Easter Jihad Masterminds Islamic group a week later. The Cardinal says that the massacre was an insult to humanity. Well, duh. I don't know. Okay, they're tracking down the terrorist cell, and as they're tracking them down, they're committing suicide, obviously with explosive vests, probably. Is that a good thing? Fuck them, just let them kill themselves, or do you want to see them? Would you rather see them dragged in front of court and executed?
Well, it's not that. It's that if you can't capture the terrorists, if you can't capture them alive, you can't interrogate them. It's a cutout.
Yeah, so you don't know if you're rooting out the whole cell or not.
Right. You don't know if you've caught the cell. You don't know. It becomes harder to track them down. It's the same, same kind of cutout philosophy mentality that the resistance during World War II, the French resistance, the Dutch resistance had to deal with in World War II.
How about you, Memes? You're more of a bleeding heart liberal. Would you rather see them dragged in front of court, or are you fine with them just offing themselves?
I mean, if somebody commits a crime, I mean, they should stand their day in court. And like MC was saying, I mean, if you can glean any additional information about the cell or network or anything to prevent future atrocities, I mean, that seems like a more positive outcome.
All right. Memes, what do you think about creepy Joe Biden throwing his hat in the ring? He's going to be running for president. Do you think he has a chance to beat the Trumpinator?
Oh, sure. I mean, I like Joe Biden.
Show us on the doll where he touched you and made you say that.
He's been seen on video for many years now, doing things that a lot of folks it definitely looks creepy. It definitely looks creepy and stuff like that. But the thing is, he was so consistent with it. I almost wondered, like, did nobody tell him? It's like, hey Joe, man, it's like the look of this isn't so good. I mean, Hannity's been ragging on you for like weeks and months and stuff like that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. I really started to
Why
think
was
that
Hannity-
maybe nobody mentioned it to him. It's just like
why
this is
was
just what he
Hannity
did.
ragging on him?
What's that?
Why was Hannity ragging on him?
Oh, because it looked creepy.
No.
Okay.
He was ragging on him because of the freaking hypocrisy, pointing out the hypocrisy. It wasn't because he thought or didn't think what he was doing was necessarily creepy. All right. The main purpose is that if you're going to have a standard and you're going to apply the standard, you'll find that the Democrats don't apply it equally. And Joe Biden's been a primary example of that. Like his macaca joke. Like his joke that you need to have an Indian accent if you walk into a 7-Eleven. Okay.
Oh, that sounds pretty racist.
Yeah. Oh, but he was selected as a vice presidential candidate.
Oh, because I thought he was President Obama or Senator Obama's mentor.
How was he? He was never Senator Obama's mentor. Where did that come from?
Oh, I thought they got along really well. He kind of taught him the rungs of the Senate.
He was freaking running against Obama.
No, not for Senate.
No,
He
for
was from
president
Delaware.
he was.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, people that like each other can still compete.
Come on, memes. That is not. He doesn't care about it. He called. We finally have a presidential candidate who's articulate and clean. A black candidate who's articulate and clean.
Yeah, those don't sound like the greatest of words, but it sounds like something I could see coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, it was something that did come out of his mouth, and yet he was selected as to be vice president. The Democrats who hammer anything and everything, anything that they can tar and feather, everything is racism, except, of course, if you have a D by your name.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, that doesn't seem fair.
His good friends that are speaking like, Strom Thurmond, who became a Republican and therefore, the Antichrist, and then his other good friend, Robert Byrd, Robert KKK Byrd, who came out and had recently, right before he died, said, yeah, well, we have white niggers too.
Well, I mean, Sargon concurred with that, apparently.
And now I'm going to get kicked off Patreon.
This is a true story. All right. Robert Byrd was on, I think it was Larry King Live. And he got asked a question and he made the comment about, because he's from West Virginia, that, yeah, well, we got white niggers too. And that's what he said. I'm not paraphrasing it either. That's what he said.
Well, yeah, and he won, with the endorsement of the Klan. But then again, he was in the House or the Senate, I don't remember which, for like 30 or 40 years. I mean, forever.
He was a senator. He was one of the mentors for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I was gonna get to her. Okay. Right now, Joe Biden is probably considered the front runner. Do you see Hillary throwing her fucking broomstick back in the race?
If Hillary throws her broomstick back in the race, it's because she's trying to provide. She needs it for cover from being arrested.
I'm just hoping Donald Trump drops a house on her and we're done with it.
Are you saying President Trump is a wicked witch?
I was referring to Hillary as the wicked witch, but we can go with Trump.
Oh, wait, you're calling him a tornado.
Yeah, he's the one dropping the house.
He is acting kind of like a tornado, proverbially, to Washington. So
he does. His style is not Washingtonian, that's for sure. He's not in the go along, get along kind of mode.
The sad thing is that I think there are a lot of more leftish folks out there among us that literally view President Trump as like Taz, like the Tasmanian devil. It's like,
why?
Because they think he's breaking everything.
Yeah, like they're the type of people that would like to name the next hurricane Hurricane Donald. All right, you know what I mean?
What's he broken?
Their fucking hearts. They're poor.
No. It's just there's actually probably evidence to support that. If I keep hearing all these words that are basically telling me it's like, well, up to 25% of folks that voted for Secretary Clinton now may be afflicted with Trump anxiety disorder.
No. See, I am so sick of them making up shit. Like that can't be a real thing, right?
I think it's a thing. My
Brought to
ex
you-
may or may not have had it.
Brought to you by the same people who diagnosed schizophrenia and missed 50% of the time.
Well,
Yeah,
well, that'd still be like 12.5%. That's still millions of people doing that.
How
That
many of
should
those
be
people
concerning.
with Trump derangement syndrome actually don't have Trump derangement syndrome, are actually freaking schizophrenic and can't tell the difference?
Well, if we're going to hold it to the same standard as the other, dude, we don't know. I mean, these folks, they're going through a lot, dude. They're under mental anguish.
they're going through a lot.
On themselves.
Well, dude, their worldview is shat. Everyone's like, oh, this guy's a Nazi. He can never win. Oh, he won.
A worldview, it's because they were deluded to begin with, right?
Well, MC, if you're told this is going to happen, this will not happen, and then what you're told that what could never happen happens, that's a surprise.
Are you telling me that that 20% of the Democrat Party are infantile, have never grown up, and have an infantile or childlike memory view of the world?
No, I'm saying 25% of the folks that vote for Secretary Clinton are in a lot of undue mental anguish right now.
The word is undue. They put it on themselves. Why? Because they deluded themselves into listening to somebody else because they were acting like children instead of adults, right?
Well, the TV told us Donald Trump would never be president.
Told us. Are you 2 memes? Are you 12? Did Speed Racer come and tell
MC,
you,
I
look
have
out
at
for the
times
big
identified
bad
as the
bag?
world's largest 12-year-old, even though I physically do not fit that description.
It's all right, memes. My buddy Brandon has Ninja Turtles like a onesie thing, and he's a grown ass man. So as long as you don't have a onesie, then you're all right.
I haven't bought it yet.
Oh my god, it's in your Amazon wish list, isn't
No,
it?
B sent me a link. It's $29.95.
God damn it.
Just keep digging a little deeper there, Mad Dodge. You'll eventually realize.
Oh shit. Okay, so
By the way,
who else is looking forward to the 2020 election when they all stand outside and scream at the sky again? It's gonna be awesome.
No, I am actually kind of concerned.
correction, severe non-traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, no, and who said it? Oh, I think he edited it. Never mind. Okay. I lost it. I was gonna read the chat, but it's gone now. Okay, so do you think any Democrat can actually take Trump out? And if so, which one?
Any of them could. Any of them could actually become president. The circumstances would have to be right. Okay, things are going to have to change, circumstantially. But the idea that we know how this election is going to turn today, all right? The election, for crying out loud, the primaries are not for 8 freaking months. All right, we have no idea how the world can change or what the dynamics could be that could change. Of course, they could win.
Do you think O'Malley should try again? Because I think he was really underrated last election because nobody talked about him. He got less fucking airtime than Ron Paul did in 2012.
Came up with the rain tax in Maryland. Go ahead.
Wait, was O'Malley? Was he the taller gentleman?
I don't know how tall O'Malley was.
To taller, kind of longer hair, kind of reminded me of like a human if he like transformed from like Howard the Duck. I don't know. Maybe it's just the name. Maybe I'm sorry, Mr. O'Malley. I'm being very racist or speciesist.
You're in trouble. I don't know what he looks like, to be honest.
Okay, well, here's another question then. people like Weld have the crazy idea in their head that they're going to primary Trump. Is that a good idea?
I like Bill Weld.
You would.
Well, yeah, he was my governor back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember people speaking highly of him.
And your senators are such wonderful people. They just can't figure out how to get past a bridge.
Well, I mean, we got two of them. One of them proposed something that I'm not sure he later supported.
Mm-hmm. And
he was for it before he was against it.
High cheekbones make her Native American. Yeah.
No. Here's the thing. I gotta give Liz a bit of a pass on that. Dude, I was told the exact same thing. I was told my grandfather on my mother's side was like half Native American. Dude, and a lot of my cousins and stuff and like my aunts, they actually have like much more deeper olive colored skin, so I could believe it. And then we found out our grandfather was just trolling us.
Did you put out a book, a cookbook of Pow Wow Chow?
I did not write such literature. I did put it on a couple of my things after I was told. It's like, oh yeah, dude, we're part Native American. So I'm like, oh, I feel like there's more to me now. So I got to check a box that may not have helped me at all.
Getting back to your Native American roots with Pow Wow Chow recipe.
No, but Memes did put out a cookbook called, The Dragon Cafe. So there's that.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it has this different types of humans and how you have to cook them.
No, it can be different. No, it doesn't always need to be human flesh.
But for the little girls, they're the most tender, right?
No. See, the Dragon Cafe. I think we should serve bubble tea.
Bubble tea? What the hell is bubble tea?
You've never had bubble tea?
No, I've never had bubble.
Oh, dude, it's like kind of like a thicker type of tea with kind of like the little tapioca bubbles in them.
Tapioca bubbles?
Well, the little bubble things are tapioca.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Wait, they're good. You should try it. There's like free samples in the malls if they still exist.
Oh my god. Memes, I have a feeling it's going to be fun when you come up here to Oregon.
Dude, do you have a train down to SoCal?
I think Amtrak goes all the way down.
Because one of my buddies in the next couple of weeks, he's moving to Santa Monica.
But yeah, I think the Amtrak goes all the way up and down the West Coast. So yeah,
cool.
But no, okay. So I'd rather vote for crazy ass McAfee than Bill Weld. All right, so fuck him. But can he can primary Trump, can't he?
Sure, he can sit up there and try and run it, do a primary. What's going to happen?
He might siphon a few votes, but he's going to lose. That's
well, Republicans also have winner-take-all primaries, I thought.
They do have not all primaries are winner-take-all. Okay, even with the Republicans. But the Republican, unlike the Republicans, the Democrats, all the Democrat primaries are proportional. They're not direct proportion necessarily. There are some that are proportional, but still give a lion's share to the winner, like an extra 10 or so delegates. Okay, but they still have a proportional type of a situation. Okay, so it isn't a winner take all. The Republicans, many of the primaries are winner take all. So yeah, there's no way Bill Weld could ever come close to actually. He could siphon off some votes, but who's really going to? Let's be honest, who's going to vote for him? One of the problems that Bill Weld would have is, well, I want to be on a debate stage. Why? You know you're not. Who's gonna want to run the debate? What kind of debate would it be?
I mean, I'd run it if they'd let me. I'd be happy.
I was going to say, I'll run the debate. President Trump, have your people.
No! Show them your work with your former Senate interview. you have a body of work.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll good. They'll be flocking.
Moderated by MC. Yeah, that'll work really well. I'm sure they'll just hop right on to that one. They'll glom right on. I would love to ask questions at a debate stage. You kidding me, man? I'm freaking. I'd be holy hell on these guys. All of them.
I can see even Trump being like, "Really? Do I have to answer this?"
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I'm going to drop a space rock on Afghanistan, MC.
Leave the rocks
No,
alone.
but I think that there are questions that he needs to answer. All right. For example, when you sit up there and announce you're pulling out of Syria, how come we haven't left yet?
Because the president specifically said he wouldn't talk about military operations.
He said he announced we were leaving Syria.
That doesn't seem to hold to the policy that he previously stated.
Well, he shouldn't have stated then that we're leaving Syria. Then should he have?
Well, is that kind of like the whole, yes, our destroyer aircraft carrier is now heading southeast or northeast when it was going in the completely opposite direction?
Well, that was only that was a total misnomer. That's something totally different.
Could that be something to throw people off?
No, because a lot of the reporting that was talking about that was inaccurate. They weren't talking about all the different carriers. You're saying, well, these ships here were moving over here. Yeah. What about any other ships? Well, we don't know where the other ships were doing.
Somehow, okay. I don't think Battleship was his best board game.
Well, it doesn't matter if Battleship was his best board game or not. All right. And as far as the Korean Peninsula thing, that question needs to be asked as well. All right. What's the status of the talks with North Korea? Okay. We there are questions that aren't necessarily Trump friendly questions that in my opinion need to be answered. All right. How do you plan to sit up there and ramp out of Afghanistan? Do you think the Taliban is defeated in Afghanistan, etc.? What do you think it's going to do? What do you think it'll take to defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan? Right.
Yeah, I would like
all these are foreign policy questions that need to be answered. Are you going to be able to ratify NAFTA?
Well, no, and I want to know what exactly we're going to do to prevent another incident like what happened on our side of the border a couple weeks ago, where Mexican military actually disarmed border patrol agents on the American side of the border.
Border patrol agents.
Oh, U.S. soldiers, even worse.
They were National Guard soldiers.
Wait. So they're members of the U.S. military?
Yes.
So Mexican military members crossed the border and disarmed our soldiers?
Yes.
Isn't that an act of war?
Yes.
Okay.
They said that they thought they were on their side of the border, but yeah, isn't
there a river that kind of divides the countries?
In Texas, the Rio Grande is one of the demarcation points, but it's not the only one. The Rio Grande doesn't go through the entire state of Texas for the border with Mexico.
Was this in a Rio Grande area?
I don't know if it was in a Rio Grande area or not.
Because I was going to say that could be one of those giveaway things. It's like, even if the water's kind of low, it's a drought time of year. It's like, if you're driving over the Rio Grande, it's like that should be it.
There are issues about that. Okay. And this is something that people forget about. When you establish a border where you say the river is the border, that's all well and good until the river shifts.
Well, how much does it shift?
Oh, it can shift by quite a bit. Rivers can shift significantly. All right, due to flooding and cutting different channels and so forth. Rivers are not they're stable in that, okay, they're generally within a riverbed, but rivers, especially the Rio Grande, which is generally a shallow river, right, is very prone to shifting back and forth depending upon how the sand buildup is.
So this is actually, we can blame this on climate change.
It's not climate change. It's just a natural aspect of freaking how rivers work and work throughout.
MC, I took geology in the 8th grade, and I know that water can do erosion and stuff.
Okay. Then why did you blame it on climate change?
Oh, if there's more water in the atmosphere, there's going to be more rain and stuff like that, and there could be more river erosion or shifting or whatever you said.
It could be, but in this case, I just wanted to point out that even where the river is, the initial demarcation for the border may have shifted slightly back and forth.
Yeah, SSM says runoff. Hey, it's deep here, MC. Although he is in a very tropical area in Paradise.
No wonder Mexican Border Patrol was intelligent.
Well, no, and I'm wondering though, what if this was the other way around? United States military members disarm Mexican military. How would the Mexicans respond to said actions? They can't necessarily go to war with the United States and survive, but then again, they would be raising more of a fuss than the Trump administration is.
Well, the Trump administration raised a fuss, but the press didn't report on it. You got to remember that. It was more how the press treated it. The press basically downplayed it. They put it on back burner pages. They didn't even want to talk about it. Only Fox News actually did any kind of, I think, anything from the news story perspective that was on video.
Well, no, and it's insane. Like, you cannot have another nation's military disarming our military in our fucking territory.
Yeah, you would think that would be a problem. That's why I advocate putting the U.S. military on the other side of that border in Mexico and telling the Mexican border, this is a no man's zone. If we catch you in here, we're going to disarm you and detain you. And we're going to set up refugee camps. You're going to be stuck in a refugee camp. And if the Mexicans want to scream about how it's a violation of their sovereignty, well, okay, well that's fine. You can scream all you want. We're still doing it. Go ahead and stop us.
Yeah, we'll just annex it. What? It's ours now. What are you gonna do? Well, now we have both sides of the Rio Grande. Fuck off.
By every freaking illegal that crosses the border. How's that sound?
But with that being said, anything else you want to discuss? If not, then we'll call it good and just have a shorter episode today. We've hit about an hour and a half. 90 minutes ain't bad.
Is there something you want to cover, Beams?
I mean, not really. I mean, I saw that article in Professor Peterson how he's like, oh, he's kind of shocked how he had got denied that fellowship on that Oxford fellowship where he was going to do research for like a couple of months or something.
Cambridge, but why don't you go ahead and read the story?
I mean, it's nothing new though. I mean, this is all old news and stuff. It was an article written a couple of days ago, and it just goes into your standard Professor Peterson talking points. Controversial professor says this, promoted enforced monogamy, which even at the event I was at, he did the whole little 2-minute thing with Dave Rubin. It's like, bust out your cell phones. Here's what I actually said. So I'm like, it's a short article, and it's just rehashing old stuff. So not particularly. Yeah, basically, I got nothing right now. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
Oh, all right. No, it's all good. Anything you want to talk about, MC?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming out. Hopefully, Red Eye Rants will be up tomorrow, and then we will be back with another live stream on Wednesday. Good night, good luck, and stay the fuck out of France. We're out of here.